Welcome back to the Fast Lane Lifestyle with Asaf Powell and the beautiful Mrs.
Wow.
Alicia.
What a wow.
Alicia, guys, listen, man. I tell you, from she do this New Year style, she's a brand new wife. She's a brand new wife. Double up. Where's my other wife? I have two wives up here now.
She's not here right
Where's
now.
The curly hair?
She's not here right now, but we have a really amazing guest in our premises right now.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I met this guy, I think 2008.
Yeah,
if I'm not lying, I met him 2008. Very, very tall guy. Very, very tall. Ajani Williams.
Yeah.
Big up yourself, From I met this guy, my
you.
spirit take him real cool.
Yeah.
So I have to big you up, Welcome.
I respect that.
Welcome to our, brand new studio.
Yes, well, thank you to the king and queen. He knows I'm going to be, it's not fronting.
Yeah.
It's just that, one of our most humble kings. And obviously queens that I'm so happy, I've told him to their face that I'm so happy that he got a Ghanaian and African woman.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we love our Jamaicans.
We love fit,
we come with the Ghana outfit straight from Ghana. But yes, thank you so much for having me, both of you. Guys, and let me tell you, they are even humbler and nicer in person than what you see on TV. Trust me.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah. So when I met you back in 2008, you had just retired from playing basketball.
Right.
Very, very young. Very, very, very young.
Too young.
Yeah, too young. So, talk us through a look like that.
Yeah, tell us about yourself, anyone that's watching for the first time. Let's start from, and then we get to...
Right, it's a really up and down story,
That's what we want to hear.
Valleys, yeah. In 2008, I retired from the game like the end of 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So the last team I played, I'd signed for really was the Atlanta Hawks, which was for me like a full circle event.
Yeah.
Because I went to Georgia Tech, left Calabar. So rather, I went to Calabar,
wow.
guys.
All right. Calabar
right.
people are most excited. Yeah, supposed to be a shot.
Yeah. Track and field was my first love.
Wow.
So even though the man them was acting like I'm an outsider in track, I ran prep school track, right? Football and track was my first thing. Didn't pick up basketball until fourth form. So I'm a late bloomer in basketball. Played tennis for Calabar actually for 4 years. So sports was
real
always...
sports,
man. Sports was
sports
a thing. Went to Guyana and did fifth form. So I did my fifth form year in Queen's College, which is like supposed to be the best school in the Caribbean. Guyanese. I was at the Dantas kid in the class, coming from the brightest at Calabar to the Dantas in Guyana. Right? And then went on to told my mother that I wanted to go to Georgia Tech. And my dad, and said, I'm going to do the SAT prep on my own. And I want a basketball scholarship, which was irrational at the time. But did the SATs and got in on an academic scholarship to Georgia Tech for an engineer. So I was a mechanical engineering student for 2 years. Was not even thinking about basketball thereafter, to be honest. I was playing rec ball. So I was a student doing well in school there, an academic scholarship, dean's list, had great friends, all in academia. And my roommate, Daryl, who's now at Facebook, he's been at Facebook probably 15 years now, came and said, hey, there's a tryout for kids, for the students.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, I don't even understand college basketball, like, who the people are. There was Travis Best there, who was like going to be a top 20 pick in the draft. James Forrest. Tim Duncan was was at Wake Forest. This was the ACC at the time. Rashid Wallace, Jerry Stackhouse, then eventually Vince Carter and Antoine Jameson. This was my era of basketball, and I got a front row seat. But I went to the tryout and had a broken thumb, and somehow the coach out of 36 kids picked me.
Wow.
And I was 6'8", 160 pounds.
Wow. What? I'm trying to imagine.
Yo, listen, say if you think I'm slim now. If you think I'm slim now.
Wow.
Right? Broomstick wet, 160 pounds wet. So I went on a team as a walk-on, no scholarship. And it completely changed my life. I wouldn't say for the better, because my academics suddenly went from dean's list to suffering by the second year, went into a whole other world of athletics and basketball superstardom and how they're treated. And I went from a regular student to this athlete now that's on the team.
Yes.
And they set me down for a year and said, you have to redshirt, you can't play, but the next year we'll bring you back. And that basically, second year came back better. That's when they had Stephon Marbury, who was the 5th pick in the draft. I think the same year Iverson came out.
Mm-hmm.
So Steph was a one-and-done player, was heralded. We had probably 6 guys on our team that were NBA eventual draft picks. So I was playing for this powerhouse team in a powerhouse league. It was just learning the game. You couldn't catch the ball, We call me Butterfingers for a while. Yeah, it was crazy. I was so afraid of the ball hitting me in my face and things like that because Steph really passed the ball hard, I was learning the game. And then by the second year, Steph said to me, Johnny, you're going to be an NBA player. I said, what? I was like, you're crazy. Like, no, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And had that conversation with a couple of people, and they didn't give me the scholarship in the second year that they said they would. So the coach reneged, right? So I was the only one that was not on scholarship on the team in year 1 and in year 2. And I said, man, this is injustice, And that's when I decided to leave Georgia Tech. And this guy, Ramil Robinson at the time, who was a former pro as well, saw me and said he would decide to help. He had won a championship with Michigan and been in the NBA, that Patrick Ewing era kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he said I was going to make it to the NBA. So I had these different NBA guys telling me that. And I'm like, I had no concept.
Yeah.
And decided to transfer. And instead of transferring from D1 to D1, at that time, you'd have to sit out a year.
Yes.
And I needed to develop because I was just learning the game. So they said, listen, you need to go to JUCO for a year to play. I was like, oh my God, JUCO, So I went to Waco, Texas for a year, suffering in Texas. Waco was where David Courage, the drama, right? Man. So I went there and played, got better, and then was supposed to sign with Arizona State. They got into gambling problems with NCAA. And basically, I just said, all right, I'm reneging on that commitment because they were getting sanctioned, and I signed with Eastern Michigan. So I don't know if you all ever heard this guy, Earl Boykins. He's probably the shortest guy that's ever played in the NBA, 10 years, 5'3". Yeah. He played for me. I went to his team in Eastern Michigan, him and Derek Dahl. So I ended up with 2 NBA guys at Eastern Michigan, at low-level, mid-level D1, and played there, didn't get drafted, but came out and people were still saying, because it's hard to build that resume that fast,
Right, you started late.
Yeah, I started late. And by the time I came out, man, I was private tutor in math in kids trying to... Yeah, I went back to Atlanta. That's where my family, my father's American, mother's maroon Jamaican, policy architect, Rasta. And that's where the Pan-African side of me comes out. And my dad as well, both of them actually. But... went back to Atlanta and started training at this gym where I'd been training when I was a junior in college, and it's where all the NBA guys go. So this guy, Chubby Wells, who was a known trainer of talent, So I went there in the days, and because that's where all the basketball runs were happening, and went there and he kicked me out of practice like week 1, told me not to come back. And I went out for a week and didn't realize why, and then a week later he took me back. And cussing me and saying, and then I picked it up. And whatever it was, I picked it up. The switch went on. And when that switch went on, I never looked back. So from there, played in different minor leagues, working odd jobs while I'm trying to pay for the gym, to get to the gym, to pay to enter the gym. And then eventually got into minor leagues with Rick Barry, one of the 75 greats, and Clifford Ray. And then from there, I got a call from Europe. I went to Bulgaria, was my first country, and I don't know. No, actually, DR, the Dom rep was my first country, my first pro job.
Wow.
I was making $1,500 US a week in DR, $6,000 a month, which was enough money then,
Right.
And it was the first time that I got the ball in my hand, because I was like the 3rd, 4th, 5th option. The first time they're like, you're the man, and I'd never been the man. It's like, okay, and they give me the ball, and man, and I took that team into the finals, and they had never been to the finals. Wow. I was like, I can score.
Confidence was building.
Yeah. I'd never had that role. So the confidence, and it went off. And once that went off, once that DR thing went off, you couldn't tell me nothing after that. Right? So Europe came calling because of the how I played in DR. And I went to Bulgaria and just killed. I mean, Bulgaria was still, I'd say, mid-tier Europe at the time. Probably make another like 6,000 or 8,000 a month at the time. And went and started up and we were in the Euro Cups as well, the Euro Championships, so the Courage Cup at the time. But my confidence was so, I just got better and better. I just went into like 20-something points, 15 rebounds. Yeah. I could always block shots, 5 blocks. And I just tore through Europe. Won the championship, the local championship in Bulgaria. And then also we went to the final 8 or final 4 in the Courage Cup in Europe. And so that was my first kind of coming to life, and then trying to get to the NBA, piecing it together. Played all over the world in Europe, Croatia, played in China, and became this, European All-Star, Asian All-Star, won the Slam Dunk Championship in China in the CBA, which is arguably the biggest league. And played in every minor league. I think I'm the most played basketball player. I think I've played everywhere. I don't think there's another basketball player, to be honest, that has played in more places than me.
Yeah.
I was in Idaho in the CBA. Well, that's when they had the CBA. Now they have the G League, the NBA G League, right? They had no G League then. They had the CBA, the ABA, the USBL, the NBL. I played in all of them.
Because you were playing catch up.
I was playing catch up, trying to make my name and build my resume. So I played in the CBA out in Yakima, Washington. That's up in Seattle, way up in the corner of the US near Canada, where the American Indians are. Right? Roommates with Fred Vinson, who used to play with Georgia Tech, who's now a coach in the league, assistant coach. And played in Idaho, played in Connecticut. Adrian Griffin, that just got fired from the Milwaukee Bucks, the head coach.
Yes.
He was the star player for my Connecticut team.
Wow.
Right? So had this rich experience of minor leagues, and then played in the G League in 2001 in their inaugural year. Sam Vincent was the coach. That's the guy that I ended up hiring when I became president of the federation here. I hired him to be the coach of the Jamaica national team. He played in NBA. He coached the Charlotte Bobcats with Michael Jordan, very close with Michael. And I just called him up and said, hey, Sam, you were such a good coach with me in the minor leagues, come. And he had coached Africa. He had coached Nigeria, Senegal, number of African teams, South Africa, married to a South Africa. So I called Sam. So that was kind of like the whole foray of thing. And then finally, by 2003, I got so good that, man, it's like 10 teams were calling in 2003 summer.
Wow.
I went down to Miami, partying with my girlfriend at the time, and her girlfriend. It was her birthday. Drove down from Atlanta, drove up, came back to the gym, was forced by my trainer to work out like the same day, and tore my chest muscle, benching 315. So I had 3 plates. This is coming from 160, now it's 240. Benching 315, and popped my chest muscle from that. So
man.
It's a sports is very thin in terms of being able to get through in terms of injury-free. So that kind of set me back. So that was 2003. So I never got to go to all the camps I was supposed to. I still went to Lakers camp. Still went to Dallas. Dallas could not pass me because of my physical. Went to the Lakers. They insisted. Phil Jackson insisted that I come. He had seen my tapes. Went. Did really well there. Broke their vertical jump records. I have the vertical jump record higher than Kobe. It was like Kobe was a 36 inch. I was 41. And made some good memories, but I couldn't sign that year because of the injury. So I was really disappointed. So I didn't sign until the next year, and I was 75% of my best self.
Gosh.
I signed the next year with Dallas Mavericks for Summer League. Was a starting forward, and that was when Orlando came calling for the summer and then signed me for preseason with the Orlando Magic. So Grant Hill was still playing with the Magic at the time. Dwight Howard was a rookie. He had just been drafted. Steve Francis and those guys were there. And meeting Grant Hill was so cool. This guy was almost like the next Jordan. And another remarkable human being. So I played with him and then played with Orlando. Tore my hamstring in training camp. Played through the entire preseason on one leg. And Dave Twardzik at the time came crying to me and said, man, you're an NBA player. We should be signing for the season, but we can't sign you with a torn hamstring. That's an automatic $1 million exception. And we can't do it. And we're going to have to cut you. So that was my disappointment. And I was already debilitated from the previous summer. Right. And then the next year now was Atlanta Hawks came coming. I didn't have to do summer league because now I had that name. I finally got the name and the Hawks signed me, which was back home, now Atlanta, second home, so back in the Georgia Tech area. And all those guys, by the way, on the teams who never, there's like a tension in that team between Stephon Marbury and some of the other guys. And those guys used to say negative things like, oh no, he can't ever make it to the NBA. They actually voiced that to me and to Ramil.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they said that. And actually the reason why I actually pursued it was because of that.
Oh.
So it was really more so people telling me that, but also because those guys were also being negative.
Mhm.
Right.
So I said, I can't.
Right.
All right.
I'll show you.
So actually, making it to the Hawks, and it was so weird because one of our teammates passed on. He had a heart attack that year, Jason Collier. He was someone that we had recruited.
Mm-hmm.
He and I were talking the night before, and all of a sudden, the next day we get our call that night saying Jason Collier has passed. Come to the gym. We went to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that funeral, Jason Collier ended up going to Georgia Tech, but that was when I had transferred.
Mm-hmm.
So that same coach that was there and all those players that I had left behind all end up at the funeral. I had not seen them in maybe 10, 15 years.
Right.
So at the funeral, I'm now coming off with the Hawks, with the bus, with all the players, and I'm in this unfortunate place. But who do I see but all the coach who didn't want to give me the scholarship, right? Who did not keep his word. And then also the players who were also somewhat negative.
Right.
And when I saw that, and I also had been detected with a heart issue in Orlando as well, a thickened heart muscle. It's called like atrophic myopia or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the Hawks didn't pick it up, I was concerned. The fact that Jason died, I was like, well, if he died, I mean,
Yeah,
you need to be careful, right?
Plus, I'd been stressed out. I'd been away from my family, no wife. And I'm like, no, man, I can't. All them Christmas here,
Right.
Jamaican Christmas.
Yeah.
Right? So I said, really, I'm an academic.
Yeah.
I've always been an athlete, an academic athlete. But to really go so far into becoming a purebred athlete and seeing the world that I was now in, it just wasn't fitting with me, to be honest. I'd already stepped on the court and achieved what I did. I signed the 2 contracts. And I knew if I wanted to stay, I had 2 offers in Europe, 2 of the favorite teams that I wanted, one in Zagreb in Croatia and one in Spain.
Yeah.
And 5 NBA teams wanted me to go back to the minor leagues. And I was just like, no way, no, I'm not going back.
Right.
So I'm not a minor. And I retired. And it just got in me and I said, 29 years old, 28, 29.
You're young.
Yeah, it was super young, that's it. But I was exhausted, to be honest.
Yeah, man. Can imagine.
So I did that. But as I was saying to you guys, boy, if I knew that making, a living in the real world was this hard.
You'd have tried.
Man, I'd have 10 more. I'd have 10 more. 10 more. I'd have suck it up. I'd have suck it up.
Yeah,
so that's the story of my basketball journey. Sorry, it's so long.
It was very informative.
But for me, what I find weird, what you said is that, in sports, when it comes to injuries, it's such a thin line. And I've been injured so much. And let me tell you, I'm happy that track and field is an individual sport. Because if I was playing for a team, I would get cut long time. I would get cut so many times because I get a lot of injuries.
Right.
And these teams, they don't play when it comes to that. And basketball, football, whatever it is, they don't play. The minute you get injured, they start looking at you sideways.
Yeah.
And the more often it happens.
Yeah, the more often it happens.
And the more often it happens.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Look at how they're looking at Zion Williamson. He's a number 1 pick.
Exactly.
So a 15th man.
Yeah, the minute you get an injury. And then you come Jamaica and
how was that transition? Like retiring? Any young athlete watching right now that might be like facing what you face? No, but I mean, like what I want to ask is like all the money that you made, because I always think it's so important as a young athlete pursuing the sport to teach them about like money management, how to also monetize that as well, because the lifespan of being an athlete is short, right? And then you have like 50, 60 more years to live, God willing. How do you survive that? How do you pivot?
I think not to get there, but I think the more they hear it, it's better, because if I'm the only one who keeps saying keep saying, yo, invest in this, invest in that, do this, do that. I mean, I guess they're hearing it too much now from the same person. So the more people they hear it from, people who have retired from the sport and move on, make the transition and all that. It's good to hear it from other people as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's something, funny enough, it's taken me, so if I retired at 28, that's kind of 30, right? I'd be 17 years removed from that now, right? So it's been almost 2 decades since my retirement. And it's taken me that long to really formulate what things that I really absolutely should have done and things that I now teach and mentor. I would say literally in the last 5 years, I would have learned it. And even a week ago, it was things that really even cemented now that we have actually come out with formulations for young people in terms of how they need to approach life. But yeah, it was very difficult for me. And imagine I came out with a math degree, minor in physics out of Eastern Michigan. I still didn't know what to do after retirement. So I had a pathway where I could go and get a regular job, but yet I was confused.
Right.
So can you imagine someone who has not yet graduated or never really thought of themselves and whatever degree they got, they never really thought about doing that thing. So it's like, what do you do? The temptation for us is we have so much freedom, so we kind of get addicted to freedom. We don't really want to go back. We get shouted at from the coach, right? Right? But, and I've had all these crazy coaches, but you don't really necessarily, corporate doesn't feel necessarily right. Depends on your trajectory. So we tend to want to go into business. And I think what we don't apply or understand is all those years that we were honing our craft to become the best athlete. Took years. Prep school, primary school, high school, college. Years to become pros. We take it for granted that you can just get into another field of business. Business is a skill, it's an expertise, it takes years. So no athlete really should be going from athletics directly into business without the ecosystem of support around them to really do it, really for them, until they learn, and then they learn slowly as they go along. So I would say that I went into business, I made huge blunders. I won't get into some of the things here. They're too painful to even mention. But coming back in 2008, remember we had the economic collapse in the world. But we had our own Ponzi schemes here, which I invested in personally and lost my shirt and my nail and everything else. So those things then personally impacted me professionally, right? So they impacted me in terms of even my name and my reputation. And then going into basketball, I'm going into basketball at 30 as president. I was young. I was one of the youngest presidents ever, right? I'm going into that, and I'm going in naive because I don't know my country. I don't know what's been going on.
Right.
I know sports is politics. I've been away so long. When no one says sports was politics, I didn't know. I didn't know who these people were. So all the people on my board are complete strangers. People think if you're trying to be cronyism, you'd get people who you know and your friend, and you pack up your thing and you do it. I mean, that's how it's done, right? I didn't know it. It's all independent people, but you don't know who has agendas, what. And I come in with this American style of, we're going to fix this, transparency, fix.
You're going to save the world.
You're going to save the world, and you're going to do it this way. And you realize you start moving people's cheese, and you're messing people up in terms of how they've always done things. And some of it is not necessarily dishonest. It's just how people cling on to certain things. And so some things needed in terms of our people. We need more conversation. We need more education. So I think those are some of the missteps in my transition, is the naivety, right? And coming back in that level of innocence. We're not innocent in terms of maybe our personal lives, especially us men with the ladies, right?
I didn't even take it there.
Yeah. I went off the rails as well. I went off as an innocent kid, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and came back,
Part of life, you have to experience.
It's life. But in terms of professional integrity and innocence, absolutely. I will never be able to look down as it relates to my mother's name, my grandfather's name, my grandmother's name, never. Right. No matter what anybody says, I'm absolute with that. But I would say to young people, one of the things that I've learned now, Siobhan Thompson, who plays in France in Pro A, superstar, big man in France. One of the things that I've formulated for him is that, hey, you're not going to take no risk. You're not taking no risk talking about you're going to be starting business, right? If young people would learn one of the basic premises, which Warren Buffett talks about, if you just take $300 US a month, even you guys with your kids, and you invest from your kids are 10 or 15 or 20, or you even do it for yourself. If you're 20 and you do $300 a month for 20 years, you're going to be a millionaire. If you put it in an index fund that tracks the US S&P 500, just basic. You don't have to go for the big win, trying to hit it out the ballpark in which you're risking your entire base on life. Because who is rescuing you? It's like with me. I'm not Elon Musk. Elon Musk did that. He sold PayPal for whatever he sold. He was one of the founders, the co-founders. He got 150 million. He then invested in, created SpaceX. He bought into Tesla. Tesla is not founded by Elon Musk. There were two other guys who, he bought into it, literally kicked out those owners, and then took Tesla into what it is. But then he spent all his whole 150 million. When he went from 150 million to zero, and no investor was putting in money in Tesla, guess who bailed him out? His Silicon Valley friends loaned him $100,000 a month for 12 months. He was broke, but he had 4 kids. For us here in the Caribbean and people of color, we may not have that ecosystem, right?
Yep.
So our athletes who are coming, a lot of us coming out of Jamaica are coming from inner city realities, rural realities where our families haven't necessarily made it. I'm not gonna say I came out of that reality. I came out of different, but even that's sometimes worse because then you don't learn certain instincts.
And then you have a lot of mouths to feed, like financial responsibility as well, right?
Yes, you have a lot of mouths to feed that they're carrying. So I would say all athletes need to learn how to save and to invest in discipline and consistency. And if you have a 5-year, 10-year plan, you don't have to wait to 20. In 5 years, you can become a millionaire just doing conservative investing if you're investing $1,500 or $3,000 a month, if you're making that much, and you can put away $3,000 a month for 5 years, you're guaranteed to become a millionaire. So it's really knowledge, right? It's knowledge, discipline, and consistency. Because you can be disciplined for a week, and then you're not disciplined for the entire 5 years. You're paying Digicel bill, you're paying this bill, but you're not putting away for yourself. And you don't have to hit that big win. When you create that cushion, that's when, especially for young men, right? Once you've created that cushion and you can now live off the interest, then you can take risk from the interest.
Preaching.
Right?
Where's my notebook?
You can take risk from interest, but you can't take risk from principle. Right? You should never have done that. I did that foolishly again in my second life again because I didn't have that mentorship. Maybe a little stubborn. Maybe a little stubborn as well. I can't say I wouldn't have been stubborn. Going into the NBA kind of made me stubborn, trying to push myself to that.
Sports cannot do that.
Sports does that. The sports ego, which we need to win, also is dangerous when we retire in the real world.
Yeah.
So I would say that would have been hard for me to have continued. If I had learned that knowledge, discipline, consistency. So that's what I would tell young people is that there are multiple ways. You can almost guarantee becoming a millionaire without having to take these big swings. And I would never advise anybody to go into business taking these big swings without a lot of knowledge and expertise and taking your time and taking risk from the interest that you've saved from wise investing.
Oh, nice.
Also, I always ask him, is it a hard adjustment? Like, being on the road, living a certain lifestyle, and then to you come home, you sit down.
It's hard. It's hard. It takes time.
So far?
It takes time. Because when you retire out of this lifestyle where it's like every morning. Like this morning, I had a flashback. I was like every morning 4:30 my alarm would go off.
Oh.
See, I would go to training, come back home like 10 o'clock, 10:30, back at training at 2 o'clock until 6, whatever time it is. Come home, you bathe, eat, food, sleep, repeat.
Right.
And then you travel. Just keep traveling. And then you don't really know nothing else.
Right.
You don't know anything else. So when you retire from the sport now, and then I have to start this business and I have to do this and do that. It's better when you start. It better you start business from your actively competing.
Right.
Because when you retire, you don't want to jump in nothing. You just want to relax.
You just want to relax.
Right.
You just want to relax. So it better you start. You buy up your 1 and 2 real estate. I would say the easiest thing to manage, in a sense.
For you.
You just buy real estate. You rent it. You know who you rent it to. You collect your money. Boom, boom, gone. Other businesses a bit more challenging, but like him say, once you have a proper team, who can, trusted people who can manage things for you, then
and
you're
it
good.
sounds like
But
mentorship is really important.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard.
Right, because like we were talking about, if you're starting from a family that's not so well off, they don't even know money management themselves, right? Everybody's kind of like, feed me, and you have that responsibility. So if you have a mentorship that can educate you, like if you were saying, if it's $300 a week, whatever you can afford, because some people can't afford to just go and buy a house, right? So start with what you have. And I know I see tendencies of like, when you see fast money coming in, you spend it as fast as you're getting it. And we don't think long term. So I think these conversations are so important.
So important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think to answer two of your questions, well, one question was, yes, the question about being on the road, as I said, that even inspired me retiring young, because I couldn't take it anymore. 5 or 6 strange places in the States, in Idaho. Who wants to be in Idaho? I come from Jamaica.
Yeah.
I lived in Michigan. Europe I enjoyed, Europe I really enjoyed. But enjoying that to the extent where you're missing Christmases with your family. Unless you get married very young,
Right.
If you get married very young, then fine, you have your family with you. Then I would say that would be the idea, like Steph Curry, So not everybody's LeBron and Steph, where you get to find your person that young. But if you can, great. But to Asafa's point is that track and field actually I find to be the most disadvantageous sports for athletes. I've never said it publicly, but I'll say it because he's kind of brought it up. Because the business model is completely, it's not skewed in favor of the athletes. Where in the NBA, where I'm coming out of, it is. Because the NBA at one point was 47% split of what you call basketball-related income, BRI. During the negotiations with David Stern, during those years, those hot times when the NBA was no, you see they're rioting and protesting and not, right? The lockout periods. They negotiated, owners were able to negotiate them down to, I believe it's 49-51. So they went from 53 to 49.
Right.
They got some more rights in terms of TV, right? So basketball in general, it's a split. I mean, it's a good split of the money that's coming in, right? So that's why they make all the money. NFL is not as great, Baseball is probably the best, right? It's baseball first, right?
Yes,
then basketball, then the NFL. But track and field, it's kind of like, and I don't want to get him in a hot seat, but it's the Olympics. You have the Olympic Association, right? And then you have the World Championships. Those bodies, and I think Jamaica, we missed the opportunity when we had the greatest leverage, when we had Asafa and Usain and Shelley and all these people at the heights, and we had so much power to have them, but we weren't developed on the business. We developed on the coaching side and the athlete side, and even the administrative side somewhat. But on the business and the management side, we were far behind. So we didn't understand leverage and going and negotiating and taking seats at the table, getting on boards and sitting in those rooms and demanding restructuring of these rights. So that when you go to the Olympics, every Olympic participant should be getting a payment, right? Right? Via their country, the Olympic Association should be paying that, right? World Championship, same thing. I don't know what their TV rights are, but obviously in the Olympics, they make a lot of money.
Right.
So those guys have it really hard in that you can be going to the Olympics, and if you're not Asafa or one of the top folks, you're not really making any money. You can come home and have participated and not made a cent. And that's debilitating. So that's one thing. So athletics, I think, is skewed. Asafa obviously was gifted and worked really hard and got to the top. And those are the few. But then also with athletics, the risk of injury is probably the highest in track and field.
Yes.
It is. People don't understand, they train 6-7 months for this one race going at that speed, in which your muscles going at that speed. In basketball, we go fast, but we're going at probably 80% of our muscle speed. They're going at almost 100%. So there's a high probability of injury. Not being injured is a miracle.
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, learning investments, as I said, there are more. Even real estate is definitely one of the key foundations that athletes need to have. But these young people, if they just learn the basics of index investing, what Warren Buffett said, the S&P 500 for 60 years has made between 10 and 12% per annum. If you put the power of compound, if you put 300 US away For 20 years, you'll be a millionaire.
Yeah.
If you put away $1,500 for a month for 10 years, you'll be a millionaire. If you put away $3,000 for 5 years, you'll eventually be a millionaire.
Right.
Even if you don't contribute after that 5 years and you just let it roll. So I think the mentorship and where Magic Johnson, if you look at why Magic Johnson is so successful, is because he had the wisdom. I don't know where he got it from.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that. He went and found Dr. Buss, who was owner of the Lakers, and asked him to teach him business. He went to this other guy in LA who was apparently huge in film and development and said, I know you're the best. I want you to teach me. And the guy said, if you read this book, I'll do it. And he went and he read the book in 3 days and came back, and that guy became his mentor and taught him money. So with that, he focused on building teams around him. That was point number one, building teams of people who know, and then leveraging his name and his brand and his likeness, and then he learned negotiation. So I think mentorship, the team, the people around you. I don't believe in people really managing your money, meaning where you don't have control.
Right.
So even Siobhan, I say, don't let anybody manage your money, not even me.
Right.
Right? No one. You need to be able to have control. You need to get the information and have it allocated within your financial organization, a reputable financial organization,
Right.
so you don't lose your money. So I think it's just better mentorship, knowledge, and that information needs to be shared.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
When I go back to from when I met you in 2008, I realized you have always been business minded and also because you always give me ideas.
Unfortunately,
every time.
It's pre-index investing are going into now later. I'm trying to catch up on my last 10 years.
Every time I see him, always giving me business ideas. When I was actively running and all that stuff. And even this morning, when he got here, he was giving me business ideas. Alicia was reading some stuff yesterday on Google. It's public knowledge that's on Google with a few things that you have done.
Right.
What
in
were
the
they?
tech world,
In the tech world and stuff that you have created and all that stuff. Maybe you can.
I thought that was pretty. For me, I was telling him, I was like, this is so fabulous because, I think it's like when you see an athlete and you see an athlete like transition, obviously, you've had your ups, your downs of like learning and all of that. Right. And I'm sure it's affected you. But it's just great to see like the transition, like even the impacts of your story of like when you finally got to the NBA, the injuries, this, that, and like what you've done today. I was like, wow, I know some athletes, because you get so accustomed to a certain lifestyle that it's hard for them to like bounce back from that. They go into depression.
And what I like is a persistency, and it kind of, it's similar to mine because I've made a lot of investments and lose enough money, enough money.
Can imagine.
But sometimes I feel like I want to give up. I don't want to invest anymore. I don't want to do anything. I just want to keep my money and just spend the money. Because it's hard to trust people. It's hard to find things to do and all that stuff.
Right.
But you like I say, you came to Jamaica. You go through all of the ropes. You have your disappointments, but you keep going. And you created a lot of stuff. So can talk us through.
Well, I'll try and be brief because I know these stories are extremely long. We have to drink some rum and get some African food to really go into this.
We can summarize for the
people. Summarize for the people.
Part 2 when we have the African food.
Summarize. Yeah, they know I love the African Ghanaian food. Guys, you guys have to get to Ghana, by the way. You just have to.
We're going to have you over for food.
Thank you. No, I think, all right. So, as I said, I went to Georgia Tech on academics. So I've always been math brain and sports. But I realized when I looked at the NBA and I saw the owners, so one of the things I saw was when we were there working out, and these guys, man, they had us up on, after we train, you train like an hour or two before you even start practice. You practice and then you're training after practice, especially guys who are 15. You want to make sure that one, you're keeping sharp, but two, you don't want anybody to feel like,
right.
You can't have like the Michael Jordans coming in and outworking you, So, but I used to see the owner coming in and he's riding on the bike and they have us at the golf course for this signing and this. I mean, like all day, every day. It's amazing how much time, athletes give outside of even just playing. And I said, athletes, sports is really a platform. That's one of the things that athletes have to be taught. Sports is not the end of the achievement. It's not the achievement that you're getting to. If you have platforms, you got to high school, you got to here. Pro sports is a platform that then takes you to the next thing.
Yes.
And when they start thinking of it like that, rather than the end of, I finally gotten there, and that's the end, no. You're barely at the beginning. Look at Magic. Look at Michael. Look at LeBron. LeBron is actually using that in real time while he's playing, which is insane, right? But he's smart. He's another one of those wise ancient minds, you know? So I would say that for me, I was always that I've evaluated and I said, you know, I really given a lot of time to these guys being able to fire me at will at any time. I have no control over my own life, which is scary. Given that this was not even, I was a walk-on. I was a student walk-on. I'm supposed to be here. So I said, you know what? I need to go back and give time, right? To my country as well. I wanted to give back. But in doing business, by 2007, I'm probably one of the, what you call like hidden figures, unknown Black pioneers in tech. Because I started in tech in 2007. As a matter of fact, it's very correlated around the time when I met Asafa by 2008. By the time Beijing came around, I'd already designed my first products, 2 products, and I realized that I really got excited about this tech thing. Didn't know it, understand it, but hey, the math and physics side would make me get back in it. And it took me a little while because I was still doing the sports and doing all these different things and trying my hand at different things, failing and suffering. And finally, by 2011, went to Supreme Ventures, Brian George at the time, and proposed this product, which is a sports text message product called For Sport. And you could get NBA scores, cricket, football, UEFA, all of that on it. And Brian loved it. And Sonia Davidson, who was really the real champion of it, to be actually more so than Brian. Brian just signed off on it. Gave me a 6-figure deal for this concept. And we built it quickly. And then I scaled that to 400,000 subscribers in Jamaica, text message subscribers. I came up with a concept of recruiting UTech students and putting them on a bus and sending them downtown, St. Ann, Ochi, into the towns, getting people to sign up manually and gave them, over-incentivize them, and they just blew it out, and we just bam, 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 and we got to 400,000. And people could unsubscribe. So I was happy that the churn rate was low, meaning the people who were unsubscribing were very low. And so we made good money with that, and that opened my eyes and said, but I said, boy, text message it's not gonna last. You know, applications are gonna be the thing. And I saw that before it happened. And by 2012, I just sold Supreme Ventures, the database, and exited, and then started building out what I would say is where I am today. And it took me a while. So by 2014, 15, I was building like one of my sports apps. When I left basketball, I actually left because of that. So while all the noise they were making, which I wasn't listening to, I went to New York to build an engineering team to build this thing called For Sports, right? And moved there to build a team there and do all of this stuff. And then my mother got sick. And I had to fly up to New York. She got cancer. She dies. I have to come home to bury her and then do all of that. And that completely derailed me. I was very close to my mom. And shout out to her in heaven. One of the most remarkable, not because she's my mother, I have to give her a shout out in that she's a gender equity specialist. So she was one of the great policy architects of all time because she was from the 70s and 80s. You're talking from the Peace Corps, Women's Bureau in Jamaica, CARICOM, UN, UNDP, USAID, CEDAW, Global. You know, went with Hillary Clinton in 96 to Beijing with that whole thing. So you talk about gender equity policies that shape Jamaican politics or Caribbean policy. Sonia Harris would have been, you know, so coming from that legacy of people who help social justice. So came back with that devastating thing, and that derailed me. I was going through a divorce at the same time. So divorce, lost my mother, and all the money I made from track and field business, which Asafa knows. I tried to sign Asafa when I brought the Chinese brand.
The Chinese company.
361.
361, yeah.
Yeah, made a lot of noise, and we tried to sign him, and I wanted Asafa bad, went after him, and the guys, 361 moved too slow, and Leaning signed him. And at that time, the Chinese brands weren't known. But I did really well from 2011 to 2015 in that track and field business, managing the second largest sports apparel company in China. Leaning was number one, or Antar Leaning was number one, 361 was two. And then had that tech side that I was doing. And so in 2015, when I left the presidency of basketball, left the sports management business. I did it all because I wanted to go into tech full time. So I did all that, but I put all my money into these tech projects.
Okay.
Trying to defend my equity and not have, I was afraid of investors and I wasn't sure. Again, the lack of mentorship and knowledge of how to raise capital and also because I lost money in 2008 from that trauma.
Right.
I didn't want anybody else's money.
Yeah.
So it was things like that. So I did that and over leveraged myself. So I could have taken that money and now I'd be a multi, had I just done index, had I said, all right, I will invest 20 or 30% of my funds. Let me calculate the risk. And this is how much I can risk up my money. I'll put away the rest in an index fund and just let it sit and I won't touch that. And I'll just use this. So men have to be taught how to evaluate risk, how to calculate risk, how to mitigate and manage risk, and then and then you can take the big risk, but we don't really learn how to evaluate risk. So that was even falling on me, who was this math person. So that was really what happened then. And so, but went into tech and finally, by 2018, had these 3 projects: the sports project, this other Yellow Pages kind of business, and this real estate platform. And I went to investors here locally and said, hey, and they're like, no, man, the sports thing seemed too far out for me. This other thing is, but this real estate thing, Jamaicans will love it. So God was gracious. I also had a spiritual transformation as well. So that's when I stopped all the naughty behavior, right?
Became a good boy.
Yeah, I returned into my normal innocent self. It took work. It took a lot of work. I won't say we're not perfect, but definitely a different person now, and a lot from the trauma of my mother. So with that, funny enough, God just led me to Mark Mahfood, who believed in me, didn't know me. Got introduced by Mark Haddad, who became a friend. Told me to Mark Mahfood. Mark said, I'm not doing it. And then eventually he relented. And he said, you know what? I like so here what we're going to do. We're going to go to NCB. I said, NCB not going to put money in a venture? I said, don't worry. We went to NCB. One manager liked it, VP liked it, one didn't. I ended up in a meeting with that VP that liked it. She's like, hey, we're doing it. That's how I got invested in. So NCB Cap Markets became my investor, the first commitment. And they said, look, we're going to bring the first angels in on this deal. And so a number of first angels jumped in on the round with NCB Capital Markets. And I raised $250,000 US for that. So it's a real estate platform called Keys, Keez, or you can go to getkeys.com. It's a number 1 real estate online platform in the country. So we're the largest originators of traffic of buyers and renters in Jamaica and outside of Jamaica for the last 4 years, most dominant. And in the second round, I raised a second round from RGR Gleaner Group, and then more first angels joined that round. So I raised a total of $750,000. And like most startups, you're going through, you're that and you start the plane, get the thing and the level out, and it's like, So you're always going through this life and death, and we're definitely having our struggles now. We know how to get to a better place, but it's going to take more capital.
Right.
But Jamaican investors don't like risk. Right. So if you burn through the capital and you don't get to the money that they want, they're not quick to necessarily put in more funds. And understandably so. I'm not negative for them. But we're in a different type of ecosystem. We're not in the States where people understand risk, take risk. They know that 9 out of 10 startups will fail. Right. And okay, can this team turn it around? Can they pivot? Can they change? So that's where I am now, is that we are opportunistically, we're in a great space of where we could go and what we could become. Keys obviously is fine, is moving. Thank God, as of today. I don't know about tomorrow. Nice. And so now I am a tech entrepreneur, and I'm fully seasoned because I've gone through, as I said, from 2007. But I'm saying it took, those 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. It's taken me 10,000 hours to really hone my craft, to become a innovator, product builder, executionist, financial engineer, finally. You can be innocent, but if you don't have a good governance structure or people around you who have integrity, then somebody could say that you're this or you're that or you stole or you this or that. Right. So I'm happy that has been around me to also reveal who I am and my own character. And so this, we'll see where I get it. But all I'm saying is that should have been having that cushion. Right. We can't take that kind of risk coming out of the Caribbean, Africa. my people of color around the world, you don't have that ecosystem of cushion to cushion you. So young men and young women who are athletes, learn to save and to invest diligently every month without fail, no matter if it's $100 or $500 US or $1,000 US or $2,000. Set a target and try and do something every month and have a 5-year plan. It's a 20-year plan, but every 5 years you should be able to look up and see that you're moving closer to getting over $1 million.
I mean, those are great, advice, because in the sport, it can end at any time. You can be in the best of shape today, and tomorrow you wake up and you go training, something pop off.
Right. So
take the advice, and work with it. And with all them great advice, I must kind of stick him like a bit, Well, yeah, I get married again.
Well, I was just about to ask, what's happening?
Wow, I know that question. I wasn't sure that one would have come. I don't know how much research I saw. How much research I saw. How much him know? I was like, how much does he know?
Like, what's happening?
Yeah, here's the thing, and that's why wisdom is so important and mentorship. So, man, I want to say I browbeat my guys, in terms of their dating life, how they're treating women, things like that. I made missteps, and hence the divorce, which is a whole thing. But I had a number of restarts, but guess what happened? When the money was going down, I made a decision that I wasn't 25 at the time. So I couldn't bring somebody I knew I was about to go into hell.
Yeah.
I knew I was about to go into hell, and I said, I'm not carrying these people with me. I had a fabulous young lady, I won't mention who she is,
Right.
She's married now, right? And she wanted her family. I totally love her. And I couldn't, because I wouldn't be able to help her if there's a crisis.
Right.
So I had to make a decision. If I'm going to get married, I have to go into corporate and get a job. I have to give up all of this thing that I've been my life's work and make a decision. Or I can go for it and pray that God brings it back.
Right.
And so, but the startup world is rough as you're trying to re-get your base in place. Again, this is what young men need to do before they get married. They need to sort themselves out and stabilize themselves before they, if you're young and both of you come together and you meet at a good time and think you can work together and build, you don't have to be absolute, like you have to do this and that. But for me, by the time that I was 37, 38, I needed to get my act together. In gear. I also needed to become a husband. I always said with my ex-wife, I was a man, she was a girl, but she was a wife, I was a boyfriend in stature, right? So I wasn't ready to be a husband at that time. So it took me through my walk, my faith walk through Christ, to transform me into a husband. So I'm there now. I'm finally a husband, sir. I can, meaning I can know, I can handle it in a way that would be responsible. And then two, now, so it's just more so the economics of making sure that I can't see my woman, imprisoned in a lack of freedom, because if you don't have economic freedom, this is the thing. If you can't protect your family, that's a tough thing on us men. I know what I can or can't take. So I have to be a cowboy. I'm a cowboy for the moment. Yeah. But it's not because of lack of interest or me not liking people. I just have not been able to. The timing has been poor.
I understand. Yeah, try to make sure it's everything.
Make sure I can appreciate that and like the awareness of you being aware that I know a lot of men be like, what do you bring to the table? But the responsibility of being a husband, being able to provide, being able to protect, right?
Right.
Because, I mean, naturally, if we're going to back in times, that's how it's supposed to be, right? I will be the homemaker. I want to be a homemaker. And, as a man, we had a talk yesterday and I was like, I just looked at him, I said, as a man, like sometimes I feel for men because the financial responsibility that you guys have. Not only is it family, then kids, and then your wife, like just the household on its own, and then making sure retirement is set for yourself, your wife, college for the kids, all of that, So it's like, I can understand, because some days I would just see him and like, Like this is just him, and he's just in deep thoughts. Deep thought,
yeah.
Right?
Because it's stressing him. It stresses all of us. We don't want to look at you guys. We want you to have optionality. So if you want to work and do your thing, fine, right? But if you decide, when a wife comes and says, "Baby, I don't care about these people at work."
Yes.
You don't, man.
Yeah.
The person I'm mentioning, she came home one day and she was in tears at my house, right? And it was economic based tears, and this was a big time professional, and it broke me. And I mean, I did what I needed to do then, but I knew that was going to be the last one of two last interventions. I wasn't going to be able to do anything after those. So there was two bullets I had left.
Right.
So I said, no, man, I can't do it. So I think women don't probably appreciate how much we're wired to protect and to provide. Is not the only thing. We're not binary. We're not a two-trick pony, right? We're more dynamic than that. But the fundamental instincts, the innate instincts in us is to physically protect.
Right.
And obviously that means economics as well. And to provide, which is still protection. So it weighs on all of us if we're not where we would like to be in a given moment. So I've just chosen not to even broach that subject until I feel it doesn't have to be some extreme. I'm not trying to hit again out the park. Once I know there's a level that, if God so permits, if I get to that place,
Yeah, man. That's real. Take the real.
That's
And then I wanted to touch. You talk about Ghana, going to Ghana, and I'm curious, like, how did you what led you to Ghana?
The spirit. So my name is Ajani. It's Ajani, right?
Name.
Actually, it is, but it's a Nigerian Yoruba name, and I think it also, and I actually wouldn't mind a Ghanaian last name.
No, but actually, we have a name that's similar.
That's similar, right? Yes, I did hear. So really, it's African, it's African. So thank God my mother had that sense and didn't name me Arthur. I love my dad. He's alive, 89. But yeah, he was trying to name me Arthur. No, look at me, name Arthur Jr. No, guys, no. So there comes the mother with a rescue. Yeah. Right. So my mother was, I'd say, intellectual, who became Rasta, right? And was always African. Came up in time of, she went to NYU in the 50s. And during the Harlem Renaissance, so they came up in that Black conscious era, and my dad as well. My dad is from Boston. He moved to New York. They lived on the street with Malcolm X and those guys, in Harlem. So it came out of that,
Right.
So I'm probably a product. My mother never proselytized to me. She never promoted or said you this, and never. But it was just there, So I always came up with an identity of myself. And not in aversion to other people. Very multicultural. We travel the world.
Right.
Love Belize, love Honduras, love indigenous peoples all over the world. White, black, doesn't matter. But, our context is, this is the assignment. I'm Jamaican and I'm an African man. As a matter of fact, I don't even even say Jamaica. I said I'm African, born in Jamaica. Really is more so my consciousness. But I love my people, which are Jamaican people who happen to be here. So it came out of my mother's stuff, and it was always a dream. And then an avenue opened up. We tried in 2020, because when I was trying again now, when I thought I kind of ready now, it seemed like I kind of ready, I could move on with another young lady. Kind of thought I was ready, and was dating a South African woman for 3 years. And trying to get to South Africa for right before COVID. And we ended up having to, the day of the flight, we had to cancel the flight. And the good thing is that we did, because the next day the Prime Minister shut down the airports. And so for 2-3 years trying to get into Africa, different things happened. Then they shut down South Africa's borders when they thought that Omicron came out of South Africa. Right. We shut down the borders, which was kind of weird. So it wasn't working out to get into all of these different countries. And then I just kept praying and said, God, please, listen, before 2023. 2023? Yeah, before 2023, please, just let me get in. And then the opportunity in terms of the Keys real estate platform opened up. We wanted to explore maybe acquisitions or buying some people there, or what that market looked like. And it came through, and I basically had some meetings with some folk, government folks, private sector folks there. And I And I went, the opening worked, and the flights, I could get the flights, and it all came together finally. And that's how I got in. But my mother had been in to 8 or 9 African cultures, worked in Africa for a number of months, several times. And so I was, now just finally realizing that dream. She didn't take me for whatever reason. Took me everywhere else except Africa. I think she wanted me to make my own way there. And so Ghana was always the point of entry that I wanted to go through because my mother's lineage is Ghanaian, right? So I'm coming out of the Harris side of the family is Ghanaian.
Mm-hmm.
So the ancestors came together. Because I don't know how I ended up on that flight in New York. As I said, I got on a wrong plane.
Right. Oh.
One plane got canceled from Atlanta, and they routed me to New York. And when I walked on the plane, who I saw Solomon Sharp, Gary Peart, and Adrian and the rest of the guys, right?
Yes.
And Gary Peart, somebody used to drive me to school sometimes, So I was like, Solo, Gary, It was like that serendipitous moment, right?
Please.
And so, we end up hanging out there, which I won't say those guys. It made it a lot easier, spending time. Went to Sky Bar, right?
Yep, we've been there.
With those guys, and definitely you don't want to go with those guys, by the way. If you see Solomon Sharp and Gary Peart, don't go to those places with those guys. But it was a lifelong dream, and just had the most incredible sleep. I've never slept that well in my life. It was so peaceful.
Yes.
The people are just, it felt like I was in a different realm, right? Felt like I was in a different realm, and it felt like I was in a heavenly realm. That's what it feels like, right? You look like you're looking at Jamaica, but at scale, but with no crime, and just decency.
Yes.
So that was it, and the food, obviously.
Oh yeah, when you said sleep, I was like, that is so relatable. When we went to Ghana, I was sleeping in bed till like after 12, and that's usually not me. Like could he work out? He was trying to work out, and he only worked out twice. We were just eating good. Like life was just, it was
life was life in nice
man.
We came back, put on some pounds.
I saw you guys. I was watching all of your Ghana stuff and shouting loud on your YouTube thing. Right, blowing you guys. Never heard, but you guys.
But I think for us being down there was really good as well as with Saf. He was down there, but advocating like for athletics in Ghana because, as we know, Ghana is very football oriented. West Africa in general is very football oriented. So they recently are having the African Games in Ghana, and they finally have a track. So one of the journalists said, I wish Asaf was here to see this because he would be, so happy, because when he kept making that comment, it made me sad. It made me realize that we really need to do better.
Yeah, man. I'm happy for that. That they actually got a track of a nice stadium.
Yeah.
And all they need to do now is just move forward. Think about moving forward.
Right.
And he needs to play a significant role in that. But somebody needs to, just help him put that. What does that look like? What is that? Because how do you build capacity in Ghana to unearth maybe talent that they don't even realize?
And I also don't think that they understand that a career could be made out of it. Like, how you talked about Jamaica having the coaching figured out, but then there was like the management, that aspect. Like we are still so far behind. In terms of that. So I go to say that as in like, even when you're here talking about finances or, tech and startup, nothing goes in vain when you're talking because someone's listening. And everything eventually does click.
It does click. Okay.
Yeah, because I know I'm a millennial, so sometimes my generation we might be like, we don't want to hear this, we want changes and this. But like with me, I'm always willing to learn and listen. Like even when you talked about saving like 300, I've never heard that from my parents. Nobody. Like, I haven't heard that. So that to me was like, wow, I just learned something different. So always be willing to learn. We never stop learning.
Yes.
So I'm very thankful.
No, very appreciative that y'all would take like, a underground back office boring farmer.
It's been in the making
farmer
ever since. Been in the making ever since. And there's no way it would have a platform, I wouldn't have invited you.
Yeah, happy that we're bumped into each other.
So yeah, man.
Yeah.
And you're making
respect.
an impact. Like, don't down what you're saying. You're making an impact. I know you say 60% is where you're at, but it took a lot to get to that 60%.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with like acknowledging that, hey, that's a lot.
Yeah,
some people don't, that mental toughness, some don't have it. Like I talked about depression with athletes, so I'm big on like making sure you're being present.
Investors will watch this podcast and just throw some money. Throw some money.
I want to ask you. How are you balancing life now? Like, are you dating? How are you balancing like work? How are you balancing like your hobbies? I want to know one more thing. Like, how's he balancing? Are you just all tech right now?
I'm as unbalanced as you're probably gonna see. I'm as unbalanced, right? Some people probably look at me and say, no, man, I'm a turned priest now. Yeah. But you have to remember, African priests have wives, number one. We don't do the Roman thing, right? We do the African thing, which is, right? But even if that were true, but no, I'm extremely unbalanced because I'm hyper-focused. I still hang with my friends, Went out Saturday night to a birthday dinner with friends and stuff like that. But I'm zoned in, because for me, it's not a swing hit or miss, but the level of focus that's required generally to get across that threshold is not easy. A good support system, and we don't have to do it in that extreme way. Again, my way I'm doing it is because I'm out of balance, because of the missteps and then the recovery.
Right.
If you don't do it that way, you're still gonna have to make sacrifices. Mark Cuban from the Dallas Mavericks ate ketchup sandwiches, slept on his friend's couch for months and ate ketchup sandwiches. We know about that in the inner city, right? The Airbnb guys ate dry cereal without milk for 2 weeks because they ran out of money and nobody would fund them. And it was a last minute meeting that they got that funded them. One partner actually flew back to the East Coast and left them in California, right? So these are a lot of the stories that we don't know about in terms of what's made. Obviously, in terms of my stage, the gray hairs and stuff and thing, I don't have a lot of time to waste. So my efficiency has to be like thing. Obviously, I don't want to get imbalanced. Of course, I try and work out. You guys have seen me at the track. I've been doing that for a year. Try and go to the beach sometimes and things like that. But I am as unbalanced probably as they come right now. It has to be for a time. Right. It's not something that it's not sustainable. It's not healthy. But I'll tell you guys more. Should I get on the other side? Reality. I'll tell you more of the details of what that sacrifice really looked like and how brutal it really was. But it does not have to be that way. And I don't advocate for that. I advocate for men and women learning, especially men, learning how to evaluate risk, how to measure risk, how to mitigate risk, manage risk, and then how to take big risk within the evaluation and measurement, and also being willing to take care of yourself. So I was always doing these projects and helping people and serving my country and doing it at my own expense. I've done that for too long. And so when you start putting away, if I put away 60% or 70% of those funds just from the 361 euro, I'd be a multi-zillionaire, right? And it would have been because I would have been looking out for my well-being.
As well.
While taking a certain percentage risk, right? Rather than making a big bet like I'm in Vegas, like saying, I'm going all in.
Yeah.
Now, I may make it, but as I said, that's not the path for young men. So once you've made, 50,000 US in your life even as an athlete, or 100,000, you should become a millionaire. If you have the discipline and consistency with the $300 or the $1,500 or the $3,000, I'm saying almost anyone can become a millionaire in life. But the problem is personalities. That's what Warren Buffett is. Warren Buffett is not merely intellect. He's a personality. It's a personality of humility, a personality of patience, a personality of discipline, and a personality of consistency. And now once I've applied those things, they've worked for me instead of being, the men we just want to go hard charge fast, So we can have both things working, but we learn that from women. Women do obviously a better job of that meticulous and save and they build up, and we just have to do a better job of that, and we can become these millionaires. Then, maybe the next generation, Amik and Azaf, when they come out, you'll teach them, hey, you're not going to dig into the principle that me and mom leave you. you're going to earn like the royalty.
Right.
You know, like the Queen of England,
Yeah.
they're getting money from royalties paying out. They don't touch the $1 billion crown, $40 billion crown holdings that they get, or the $1 billion duchy that Prince Charles just gave to William. They're getting the royalties, so they're living off interest. Right? So they can take risk with the interest.
Yeah.
So these are just the little things that I said. So balancing, there is no balance, just to answer your question. So I have
like the transparency.
Yeah, there's no balance.
Nice.
But the gray hairs, as I said, the gray hairs are accelerating.
I see 1 and 2 coming up.
For you?
That's one.
No, man, you're young man. No, man, you're fresh, man. You're fresh, man. You're good.
It's knowledge, you know.
You two taking care of each other.
We can at least just say that for men, I mean, it's not like women where, you know, we have a clock ticking.
Right.
So in terms of like dating for a man, it looks totally different than for a woman. So you're good. Some women like the gray hair, so you're good.
But you see, that used to be the case, you know. But so now we're under pressure. Right? We're under pressure nowadays.
With what?
Because one, the women are getting economically more powerful.
That's true.
They're taking better care of their health. So women now in their 40s, their 50s, and their 60s are looking great.
Yep.
Yeah, 60-year-olds attracting 30-year-olds, right?
Yep.
And now the men, because the men have been left behind. This is a conversation I had with my mother because of all that gender equity work that she did for women. And the women got a lot of policy work from the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Men, we didn't have that. So what happened now, you have, 60, 70% graduation rate out of, high school with men, boys, and same thing in college. 60, 70% of the people graduating are women. And they're going into corporate, they're diligent, they work hard. We'll go off on that. And so we're still taking risks. So men, even though we have a longer clock technically, we're also coming under a lot more stress health-wise. And so we have to take better care of our health.
Amen.
And so, I would just say that everybody I can't twiddle my thumbs and just say, oh yeah, because, at 50, I can still be a late bloomer, that husband. But I'm committed to doing it a certain way, unless I just decide on, the Honorable Bob Marley, and just have.
I was actually going to ask you, do you have any kids?
No, lost my, that's a tough story, but that's 2003. Lost my one.
Before Alicia start get
too sensitive.
Let me.
The bro is rescuing him. The bro is rescuing him.
Yes.
Yes.
Ajani.
Yeah, man.
I almost say Avani.
That's all right.
Ajani.
Yeah, man.
Big up, respect.
Yeah, man. Respect.
For joining us on, this platform.
Yes.
A lot of knowledge was shared today, and I hope a lot of people taking notes. A lot of the athletes. I hope you guys listen to these, platforms. Hope you watch YouTube and get an idea of how to make the next step. After retirement, so very knowledgeable man, and really respect him a lot and thank him for coming on, for joining us, join me and my wife, for this great talk, great advice, and sharing his journey and all that. So thank you.
Yeah, man, respect. Thank you for inviting me and finding me worthy to come on here. I didn't think the story needed to be shared, but you guys.
Yeah, man. It all I needed to be shared. I'm sure a lot of people going on Google now and say, yo, let me Google him. Yeah, man, go on Google. You'll see all the information there.
The man who took many licks.
Yeah,
and
man.
Still ticking.
Yeah, man. Like and subscribe, and you can watch us on every platform, listen us.
On every platform. Yeah. So tell your friends, tell your aunties, and this was a very impactful conversation.
Tell the dog, tell the goat,
everybody.
Chicken. Yeah, man. And thanks for watching. Big up from Fast Lane Lifestyle.
I can say Jamaica.
Jamaica too. Yeah, man.